How big can I get my heart to be?
The Media Network proudly presents
How much love can I get flowing out of me?
The Real Talk Sisters. Deep, unfiltered, soulful conversations with Reverend Dr. Pjae Stanley, Reverend Kim Andrews, and Reverend Melinda Wood Allen.
How big can I get my heart to be?
Join us for Real Talk on Real Issues. Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Central, 1 o'clock Mountain. And now, let's join the Real Talk Sisters.
How big can I get my heart to be?
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here with you today. Ooh, Pjae, you're silent.
How about that? Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yeah, all right.
Hey.
It's going to be a good day already. We're already having fun. The show hasn't even started.
We're already laughing. We haven't even started. Oops.
My goodness.
Hi, I'm Reverend Melinda Wood Allen from, I'm the senior minister at Church of One Love in Dallas, Texas. And I'm so glad to be here today. I'm doing okay today. I was mentioning to my sisters here before we started the program that the only time I don't feel a little bit on overwhelm is when I'm in denial. So I'm willing to just be in denial for this actually 45 minutes because I'm going to leave a little bit early to get to my next appointment. But there's we're doing a follow-up visit for my husband who was in the hospital a couple weeks ago. So I want to be there for that, but really glad to be here today. Talk about love again with my sisters that I love.
Yes, I can never get enough of that. Hey, my name is Reverend Dr. Pjae Stanley. Thank you all so much for being here. I am so glad to be here. This is one of the highlights of the week to be here and talk with my sisters. Before we did the show, we were just always scrambling, trying to figure out how we're going to get together. And now we have this one time we get, just every week that we get to speak with each other and check in. So I'm really, really loving that. It's a good week for me. I'm loving the classes and that I'm teaching, getting more structure for how I want it to come out. So it's more consistent with both my counseling and my classes that I teach. And it's just been a great week. Met up with some family and friends and have some more wonderful plans for the rest of the week for doing that. So it's been a good week. Sometimes, as you said, Melinda, it just gets into overwhelm, but it hasn't been so much that this week. This week, I've gotten some things done, and so I feel good about myself. So there you have it.
There you go.
There you have it.
My name is Kim Andrews, and I'm spiritual leader at Unity Saxe in Saxe, Texas. And I'm doing well, too. And it's interesting. I've stopped thinking about my schedule, and I just do my schedule. And if the schedule needs to be adjusted, I adjust my schedule. And I steal time for myself on a regular basis. Sometimes in the middle of the day, I was talking about yesterday, I decided to take a long hot bath in the middle of the day because I had some time. And it was nice. I thought, why not? That's what I felt like doing. The idea came up, and man, it's nice to be chilling in the midst of lots of hot water, steam rising, scented candles. Oh my gosh, my favorite music playing.
Nice.
And I just got to sit and soak. So, I'm learning that I can take days off. They don't come around as often as I'd like. So, I feel free to take time when I can take time.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely. And you took advantage of that. That's great. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to stuff something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Save yourself. Yeah. I could have done some work, and yet I think that is my work, to take care of moi.
There you go. There you go. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago about self-care, and so now we're just actually having to do that. And it's
wow, we got to walk the talk. What?
Get it? Yes. So, what is the title of our talk today? Is loving the
others.
Loving the others.
Those people.
So they, them, the others.
Those people.
And so I'm going to go ahead and start us off with reading MLK's 5 love lessons. Really quickly, we'll come back to it. But number 1 is darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Number 2 is that love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. The third one is life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Number 4 is, I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. And the final one is, it is not enough to say we must not wage war. And we could talk about that from a metaphysical perspective, but it is not enough to say we must not wage war. It is necessary to love peace and sacrifice for it. Yeah. Take a deep breath on that one. And so these are words to live by. And so I'll just start off with starting at the first one with darkness cannot drive out darkness. And the thing is this, is that we know that we cannot resolve any issue on the level it was created. So, we can't. So whatever you're dealing with, you can't meet it with itself. You have to meet it with something else. And for me, and I think all of us know this, certainly ministers in Unity or New Thought, love is transformative. Unconditional love is transformative. It will transform anything.
And it's the only thing that can.
It's the only thing that can. It's the only thing that can. So the question becomes, and we'll talk about this a little bit later too, is, how do you love the others unconditionally? How do we do that? And how does that actually show up? Right? So, yeah.
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 It's a big one.
That's the work.
And we get to do, this is a perfect time to do this work, because as I noticed yesterday, as my husband had the news on, not only was the news as challenging as usual, but every commercial during the news was a political commercial with people saying things that triggered all my buttons, that made me want to cry and made me want to give up and made me want to,
Absolutely.
And so what I recognize is this is my opportunity to practice love.
I like how you say that. Love.
This is the love I'm supposed to have.
Teeth gritted and everything.
Yeah, Jesus said it too. He said, what you want a prize for loving your friends? Everybody loves their friends.
Okay. Hello.
You got
that would be your friends.
Yeah.
That's
your enemies.
That's the easy part.
Was it Thich Nhat Hanh, I think, said, and you actually can't love your enemies. It's impossible, because as soon as you understand and focus your love on someone, they are no longer your enemy.
Boom.
Boom. Boom.
Exactly that. That's what that's what makes it transforming. Yeah. Because you actually, and there's something about it. This is my my dissertation was on, the transformative power of unconditional love. I believe in it so much. I talk about it. My congregation is probably sick of me. She gonna talk. We already know what her talk's gonna be about. Somewhere she's gonna weave love in. Yeah, because that's who we are. When we talk about whatever you call that which is greater than yourself. Someone the other day said, I'm just gonna start calling it love.
Yeah.
And I said, that's a beautiful name. That's exactly a beautiful name for it, because that's it. So if you're doing that, you're walking around saying all of us are individualized expressions of love. How do you hate that?
Yeah.
Where does the hate come from? So I love that.
I always tell my congregation, if they're reading anything anywhere, or anyone anywhere says to them, uses the word God, and you can't easily and quickly with absolute making perfect sense substitute the word love, then that ain't God.
There it is. Oh, I love that. I like that.
If you can't just put the word love in there, then that's not God. Whatever people are saying about it, I don't care where you read it.
Right. Yeah.
Love does not hate. Therefore, God does not hate. So if anybody says God hates well, sorry, that don't even make no sense, because love cannot hate.
It's one thing or the other. It's not both. It's not both. Exactly.
Well, that's why we put, in this title for today, the others in quotes.
Yes.
Because there really are no others. And if you are living love, and you are radiating love in all that you do, then there are no others.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess the question becomes, how do we do that? Like in theory, we can understand that, but how do you? I was listening to I think it was Good Morning America. Maybe they were talking about this gentleman who was just going out and giving hugs and love to the homeless or the what do they call them now, unhoused in New York, and he has millions of followers on TikTok or whatever, and he didn't put it on there until he had done something for this gentleman who was homeless. He cleaned windows or whatever, and he went and he asked him, how did you become homeless? And he said, oh, I lost all my equipment. And so he and his friends put some money together, $3,000, and bought him all of the equipment that he needed to go back into work. And so he now has contracts with 13 different donut shops around town. They give him the key to go in to do the windows and stuff at night, and he comes and they trust him to lock it back up. And so when he did that and he showed them that, he went viral in terms of what it takes to love other people. And what he did was just try to understand them instead of making them an other and assuming their story. He asked them for his story. So tell me about you. And that's love when you do that, isn't it? I mean, you say that, you really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just said is a buzzword for me,
Okay.
Which I think will maybe the only thing that saves humanity is that we start using our curiosity rather than our judgment.
Exactly.
When we see something that feels like other,
yes,
ask questions.
yes,
Ask questions.
and not
But
like how this happened, but
yeah.
real, true questions.
There is common ground. There is always common ground.
If you're looking for it.
And I do believe that, we talk about everything being love, and then we look around and a lot of things don't look like love.
They don't.
But here's the deal. It's either love or it's a place that is calling for love.
Ooh.
And it's never calling for somebody else's love. It's calling for yours.
Exactly.
It's calling for mine.
Ah, there's the rub.
Rather be calling for yours. Mine.
Ah,
Well, I got to show up.
really?
That way.
Yeah. Can't just be chit-chatting. Gotta actually be doing.
Walk the talk, baby. Walk the talk.
So that was a beautiful illustration of him using his curiosity.
Yes, he was really curious.
Happening? How did this happen?
How did this happen? Share with me. And he said it in such a loving way. It wasn't like, judging. He's like, why are you here? What's happened? And so the gentleman, you shared it with him. And then he went to work. He took action on what the guy told him. So I could help with this. So what's yours to do? That's one of my favorite things to ask is what's yours to do? What's mine to do?
What's mine to do?
I can't tell you what's yours to do, but I can tell you what's mine to do. You have to ask yourself, what is mine to do in any given situation? Everything isn't yours to do. I'm not telling you to save the world. I'm saying do what you can where you are.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What is that? It has to be what you feel is yours to do. And then it comes from love, I think. If you feel like it's yours to do, not from I'm a saint and you're a sinner, so that's what all saints do. It's not that judgy, what I got to do to get in heaven thing. It's what I want to do from a humanities perspective. It's what my heart is calling me to do. It's what joy is calling me to do, right? That's what I think.
Yeah. I often in my Sunday messages, I end up posing the question, how can I show up as love right now?
I love it.
How can I show up as love right now? And, sometimes that means I can either be quiet, or if there's something to say, then I wait for spiritual guidance about what to say and how to say it. And I come from my heart. And sometimes there's something to do, but we wait for guidance on that. But I think it's important to ask ourselves, because there is a choice. There's always choice. We're always at choice.
Yeah.
And I can choose to love or not love in this moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you said about waiting for spiritual guidance. And I don't know if I shared this story with you guys. I shared it with everybody else. So I probably did share it with you. But just years ago, I was at a conference with this woman and she was speaking and she said, if you're in a conversation and someone says something, you don't have to go tit for tat. You don't have to just immediately respond. You can wait a second and give yourself an opportunity to think about it, let your heart feel about it. And I just was like, oh, that's nonsense. No, you can't do that. You got to you got to go back and forth, back and forth, back. And so when I met her after, I'm just challenging her. That doesn't make any sense. Somebody's talking, got to go back and forth, back. She goes, well, Okay. Well, why is that? Why is that true? What happens if you wait? If you wait for guidance, if you wait and let your heart speak, if you wait and let love speak, we don't have to rush from an ego place to speak. You can even just say, let me think about that for a second. It's okay to say, let me think about that for a second before I respond. I'll get back to you.
Sometimes love tells me to shut
Shut the heck up. What is mine to do? Nada. Quiet down.
want you to stop.
Yeah.
But I was thinking when you were talking about that, taking that pause for about 9.5 years, the last years of my mother's life, she had dementia. And I was really her one. My husband helped me a lot, and my daughter some too, but really no one else in the family had contact with her. And she sometimes would call me 12, 13, 14 times a day. And it was difficult at times. And at first I thought, I have to answer every phone call. I have to fix this. I have to fix this.
Yes.
And I learned that I could love her better if I was also loving me. And I developed a habit of doing this. My phone would ring. I would look down, and if I saw that it was my mom, I would put the phone on my heart. I would take a deep breath and say, okay, God, can I do this right now and be loving? Right. And sometimes the answer was, no, you need to take care of yourself and call later. You can call back. You don't have to answer right now.
What's going to happen if you don't answer now? Yes.
Yeah. And then sometimes the answer was a clear, oh yeah, okay, I'll talk to mom right now. Whatever, and it doesn't matter what she says, because I'm in a place where I can be there with her for that. Okay. But that was, I don't know how I would have survived those years if I had not developed that habit. And I still, now don't tell any of my congregation this, but as a senior minister, sometimes I look at my phone and go, no, I'm going to have to call back later.
Yeah.
I'm going to call back later, because it's vital. It is vital for me. I have a commitment to answer with love.
Absolutely.
And if at that moment I don't find I haven't taken good enough self-care, or I'm too rushed, or whatever is going on, if that is happening at that moment, then I am more loving by choosing to return the call at a time when I'm calmer, when I can be the love that I need to be in that situation.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you weren't waiting there for the phone call to come. The phone call comes and interrupts wherever you were, whatever you were thinking about, whatever was on your mind, whatever you were working on. And so just because someone, called, doesn't mean that you're in the space to respond. So I love that. I do the same thing. I have to and I like the way that you put it, because I just look at the phone, I just take a breath, and nope, not ready for this call. Yeah, let it go to voicemail. I'll call them, and I will call them back. I don't just let them keep trying to get to me. I don't ghost them and all that. I just wait until I'm in the heart space and the mind space to respond, because you pretty much know what they're calling about, or who they are and what the conversation is going to be about. You may or may not be there, and so we are still human beings, even though we're loving and all of that. And so that is, I love that, loving yourself. No, I'm not going to mess this up and mess up this relationship by getting on the phone too soon. I'll call back in a minute.
We are just about at time for a break. So let's continue this when we come back.
Beautiful.
We're back.
So I think we should get into the others. Who are some of those others? So it could be, so here we are in an election cycle. Like we're not always in an election cycle, it seems.
Yes.
So it could be someone who doesn't vote like you do. It could be someone who doesn't worship the way that you do, has a different view of God.
Yep.
I have noticed in New Thought that sometimes we get a little self-righteous, or a lot self-righteous about that we are the enlightened ones.
Yes.
And if everybody else would just think like we do, then they could have a much better experience of God, and they would have better understanding. And you know, sometimes we talk about we respect all paths, and yet do we really?
Yeah.
Good
Do
point.
we really?
Good question.
What else could be the other? Someone of a different background or from another country?
Or somewhat a different socioeconomic strata than we're on, like ourselves. If we have a home and those who are unhoused, we can look at them and just think, you know, we have all kinds of stories in our head about why they're there. We have no idea. We have no idea why they're there. Every story out there is a different story. Is a different story. They're not all out there for the same reason. And so, so those are the others. You were talking earlier about Mel, you were talking about, you know, just listening to the news and just feels like everything that's out there. Where is the real news? Like it's all this stuff that's going on about how horrible things are and how the economy is blah. And, you know, throughout any economy, maybe other than the Great Depression, people made money, people lost money, people had worked, people didn't work. You know, so there's nothing going on right now that hasn't been going on for millennia since people were around and exchange hands. So, you know, so we're looking at, so who are these others? Yeah. And why do we think that? And why do we think that we're above? It's not just the others, it's that we're above them.
Yeah.
It's like where we place ourselves. And when we think about people being other than us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we do a lot of things with, seriously, I do, and really work on not doing that. The difference between men and women, do that a lot. You know, and first of all, men and women both are human beings, and we have the same emotions and all of that. Whether we express them differently is what we're talking about, not that we do or don't have them, right? And so if you don't express yourself the way I express myself, there's something wrong with you.
And I think the othering thing comes down to our very human desire for control. You know, if our little community that we belong to, we know what to expect. We know how to fit in. We know what to do. When somebody comes in with a different idea, somebody comes in dressed different, somebody comes in with a different religion, somebody comes in with whatever, for whatever reason, we feel threatened and we make that person an other. You know, during the whole thing about whether we should have gay marriage, I was like, dude, if you don't believe in gay marriage, don't marry someone the same gender as you. Problem solved. So why is it that people who didn't want to marry someone the same gender felt threatened by somebody else that they didn't even know?
Right.
That wanted to marry somebody.
Exactly.
And
how does that affect you?
Yeah,
it's not your business.
About us feeling less secure and less in control.
Yeah.
And we like to pigeonhole things. We like to, because we don't want to keep thinking.
Yes.
Curiosity
right there.
Us to keep
right there.
You have to keep thinking. You can't go, okay, I know who that is. Let's put that in a hole. Now I don't have to spend any more energy on that.
Okay. I know what that is. And we love saying, I mean, our minds like that. Our minds are, oh, I know what that looks like.
I know what that is a way for us to feel in control. Even though we're not, it's a way for us to
That's another illusion. Yeah.
Control.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and the thing you said, I think it was you, Kim, that said earlier. Yeah, it was you that said that we're waiting. You had a little thing you said, we're waiting for spiritual guidance. That in and of itself, just to say, I am okay with saying, I don't know what the hell to do here, but I figure love does. So I'm going to wait to hear from love. And if I don't hear from love, it ain't time to move. I'm going to wait till you know what I mean? Then I'm going to wait till I do. Yeah. Whatever it is, my heart's not open enough to hear from it, or whatever's going on. Yeah. I haven't heard anything, so I'm going to wait on that. And that to me, that is the most courageous way to live. Mm-hmm. To me, it's the only way to live, because it's the only thing that actually connects all of us together. it connects us. So I figure if I'm getting an answer from love, it's a true answer. It's not an ego answer. It's not something I want to hear. But man, that takes you knowing yourself and being comfortable in your own skin. And many of us are not. We're not. We're not.
Yeah, that's surrendering control, like Melinda was
That part
talking
right
about,
there.
and
It
saying,
is.
no, I don't have the answer.
I don't know.
And I would like to move forward with love, but I don't know what that would really look like.
Right.
So what does that look like? And sit and get quiet.
And trust.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait and trust, and wait and
And trust.
trust. And then heed whatever you hear,
Exactly.
whether it's to say something, not say something, do something, not do something,
Right.
walk away, apologize, whatever it is.
Whatever the response is, and you're willing to
Yeah.
have faith, wait on it, and then act on it. Act
Yeah.
on what love told you to do. Because it may go against what you thought was going to show up. You know what? You were absolutely wrong, and you're going to need to go ahead and apologize. But I'm sorry. What now? Sorry, that's
A
not
lot of times.
the answer I was looking for from you.
Well, can I ask the other love that's up there? Not that love.
Not that
Your
one.
love number two? Love number two? Speak up, speak up, speak up.
Yeah. And if
I
it's
often
conditional,
hear,
it's not
get
like
off of your high horse.
Okay,
Get off your high horse.
get off your high horse. You don't know everything.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Come down here with the rest of us. Just
You ever been on a really high horse? It's a long way to the ground.
It's scary.
yeah, it is.
It's a long way.
It's scary,
You
actually.
really don't want to put yourself up there
You don't.
and
Yeah.
end up falling
Get
off
up
of it.
out of there. Get
You're
up out
broken.
of there.
No, I had an experience
Yeah.
a few years ago when I was a very new minister. I think I had maybe just graduated from seminary 4 or 5 months before, and I found myself at a women's march in downtown Fort Worth, and my husband, lots of friends were there, and I was wearing my new stole with all my different religious symbols on it. And people were wearing bringing banners and wearing capes and all kinds of fun stuff. And we gathered and we started the march. About a block in, there were these men holding these signs and yelling at everyone who marched by, like screaming at them, "Suck it up, go home." I mean, just some pretty nasty stuff. And I looked at my husband, I said, "Just a minute."
Okay.
And I went over there to them.
Yes.
And there were 2 of them. And I walked up to the first one and I said, "Sir, I'm interested in why you're here. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm interested in why you're here saying that." And he said, "I don't have to talk to you. Get away from me." And love told me, I don't get to force myself on someone who doesn't want to talk.
You don't. You don't.
But I turned to the other guy who was standing next to him and I said,
What about you? Yeah.
I know why I'm here,
Yeah.
but I don't know why you're here. I'm asking this seriously. I'm not being sarcastic. It's
Yeah.
not
I
a
really want
trap.
to know
I want to know why you're here.
what's on your mind. Yeah.
And he started talking and I agreed with almost every single thing he said.
Isn't that something?
I was like, yep, me too. And he's like, really? Because he thought because I was in the march, there were certain things that went along with that.
Right.
I would have thought, had I not given love and curiosity a chance, that I knew things about him.
That you didn't know.
And I missed the march, by the way. It was over. I went ahead and walked around the city, but it was over by the time I got there. And my husband and my friends were just like, "Where is she? She's gone." But I talked to that guy for like half an hour.
Isn't that something?
And when I left, we hugged each other. We
Beautiful.
both had tears in our eyes. And he said, "You've given me a lot to think about." And I said, I couldn't ask for more than that. And you've given me a lot to think about. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being authentic with me.
Being willing and actually knowing why he was there. He knew why he was there.
And we didn't agree
Right.
on most things. But like the Dalai Lama says, everybody wants to have their needs met. Everybody wants to be happy and not to suffer.
Right.
And so everything comes, everything anybody's saying, marching in, making banners of, writing nasty posts of, are their way of thinking that they're doing something that's either going to relieve them of suffering or make them happy in some way.
Yeah.
And when we other somebody, it's because we think somehow they're going to make us suffer
Right.
or take away our happiness.
Take away something.
In some way.
Take away something. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think part of that otherness, that thing that you're talking about, and there's people not being happy, is just not understanding, not knowing that the universe is absolutely abundant.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
absolutely enough. I'm not taking away from you. Because I get what I want doesn't mean you don't get what you want. We there's enough for us both to have what our hearts desire.
Yeah.
And so if you understand that, then you can take a moment to share with someone and say, tell me what it means to you. Tell me what this is for you. What is your side of it? What are your thoughts on this? Because his or her thoughts don't take away your thoughts. Don't take away how your heart feels. And it may enlighten you in a way. You may learn something. They may learn something. They may not. But the point is that that's where love shows up. This is what this whole thing is about. It's about love and loving the others. And that's what you did.
Well, and that's how, once you love the others, they're not others anymore.
They're not others anymore.
Yeah. My grandfather had a 3rd grade education. He grew up in Texas picking cotton. He was very suspicious of foreigners, of people of different colors, of people who worked different jobs or lived in different neighborhoods. He was insular in a lot of ways. And he used words that were very offensive to me as a child.
Yeah. I can understand that.
And he would meet somebody. A Mexican would move next door and they'd be out gardening together. And then suddenly, even though he didn't like Mexicans, he loved this guy. He loved this guy.
Yeah.
And everybody was an exception. And I remember even as a child thinking, okay, everybody from that group that you've met, all these groups you don't like, everybody that you've ever personally met from those groups is an exception? At what point do we change the rule? And the deal is, once we bring somebody into our inner circle,
Correct.
it is very difficult.
It is
not to love them.
Exactly.
Or to at least understand that we're not so different.
Yeah. I think hate exists behind walls.
Absolutely.
Hate exists behind walls.
And in ignorance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the wall, constructing the walls between ourselves and some other group or some other people or whatever. That's when we can start to rationalize doing harm. That's when we can rationalize, I can treat you differently than I would treat those that I like or accept.
Yes. Because
you are now another, and you're somebody, and you are now a threat, and I've now judged you to be something when I probably don't really know you.
No.
Or know anything about your culture.
No.
Or whatever it is, or the way you think, or the way you believe, or the way you vote, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we get to justify things, and we get to rationalize bad behavior, violent behavior, destructive behavior.
Yeah.
And we've done that throughout history.
Yeah. And so, the question becomes, how do we, looking at MLK's 5 love lessons, how do we love the others? That's the question. That's loving the others. And what's the secret? And there is no secret. We're talking about it right now. It's actually bringing the walls down and actually meeting and talking with somebody on their terms. Talk to me about you. Tell me about you. Opening and meeting people heart to heart. Heart to heart. Nothing else. No other barriers. Whether you're a woman, a black, a green, Mexican, it doesn't make any, foreigner, doesn't make any difference. Meeting everyone heart to heart, because everybody has the same needs. You want your family to be taken care of. You love your children. You want things for you know what I mean? Everybody's looking for the same thing. So we can connect where we are exactly the same, and we are the same in so many ways.
We're just we go about it and we think that we know what's going to make us happy.
Yeah.
We think that there's a threat to it. And the truth is, we're all acting on the very limited, tiny little bit of information
that we have. Yeah.
And so when somebody's acting in a way that seems against you, they're acting on information that's different from your information.
Right. I know that when one of the things that, working with young people, I love working with young people, 7th graders, 8th graders, because they're smart, they're old enough to kind of be adults almost, but they don't know anything. But they're open to saying, well, what do you mean? What does that mean? And so one of the things that I recommend is that they travel. And it's not travel overseas, it's travel out of your neighborhood. Just travel out of your neighborhood into someone else's neighborhood. Travel in your neighborhood and meet some of your neighbors that's different than you. If you're a young person, meet an older person. If you know what I mean, because it's very difficult to hate someone when you know them, when you know their story, when you're right, when you've just gone
If
to meet
you
them,
truly knew someone's whole story, there's no way.
There's absolutely no way. And I remember my ex-husband Jason had been talking to me about going to Vietnam for the longest time, and I was a traveler because my father was in the military, so I was a traveler. But in my mind, what I knew about Vietnamese was that they hated us, Americans. We had a war with them. We went to war with Vietnam. So
In
why
their
in the
country.
world would I, in their country, so why in the world would I want to go to a war-torn country with people that hated us? Well, number one, that's half right, because we only fought with one half of the country. We didn't fight with the whole thing. We fought on the side of the South and against the North. That's number one. Number two, the war had been over for 30 years. So I doubt that they were still walking around all day long talking about how much they hate Americans. I doubt that was happening. But I didn't understand anything about that until I actually traveled there. And the moment I got off the plane and just were with them, meeting them, they're just like everybody else. They're just like everybody else. They're trying to make a living. They've got family. They laugh. They cry. They do all of that. And it was the best time I'd ever had. But it took me a long time to even decide to go because of all these pictures in my mind about what Vietnamese were like. Didn't know one of them, but that was in my head. So I understand that. I get that. Yeah. And so for me, it's about just trying to go out and meet people. Just let go of the stories. You don't know. Have you met one? That's my first one. Have you met anybody like this? So stop talking shit and go meet people. Just get out.
And don't make the assumption that because you know one fact about a person,
yes,
or 2 or 5 facts about them, that you have the whole story, because you don't.
You don't. You simply do not.
And it was heartbreaking in our country when we reached the point where just knowing how someone voted made people think that they now know everything about this person. This person voted for this person, therefore they are entirely evil.
Isn't that amazing?
Whoa! Really? Yeah.
And didn't we get established? The U.S. get established because we're free and independent thinkers, and we get to vote. No, not so much.
We're supposed to be able to do that. Yeah.
But now, if you don't vote like I vote, you're the enemy. Yeah. When did this happen? Incredible.
It's been creeping up for a while, but it seemed to burst suddenly.
Right.
Just a few years ago.
And the whatever, however you vote, the representative, the person who's leading that party, is not representative of the entire party. It's just the party leader. It doesn't mean that everybody in the party thinks that way about every issue that the leader thinks about. That's not what they're saying. That's not what anybody's saying. Yeah. But so how do you love others? Well, you have an open mind, and you first of all decide to do so. You simply it's a decision, like everything else. Yeah.
You vote your confidence, your conscience.
Your conscience, yes.
But then your conscience goes out and knows that you've already done your work.
Okay.
It's not yours to judge the work that anyone else is doing.
No.
What their conscience is.
One man, one woman, one vote. I only get to say one thing.
I want to say all the things. Why won't you listen to me?
Oh my God.
And yet I wonder, Pjae, you talk about going out and meeting other people, and yet I wonder how many people would step out if you vote one way, if you would go to another party's rally and really see what people are talking about and really see who those people are and be open and meet them and talk to them. Exactly. I wonder how many people I just was invited. My spiritual center was invited to the celebration of the opening of, or the expansion of a mosque in Saxe.
Okay.
So they had a very little place. And they just bought this huge church, Baptist church, that was right next to them. They were going to build from the ground up. And then they said, oh, this is opening up and this is a lot less expensive just to buy and renovate this church. So they had a great grand opening. And I was invited, so I went. It was on a Saturday afternoon, but they invited all of the church leaders. And there's got to be 20 churches within a square mile in Saxe.
Are you kidding?
Right around my neighborhood.
Absolutely. It's one on every,
oh my gosh.
every block.
So all of them were invited, and yet I was the only church that showed up.
Really? I'm actually surprised.
Yeah. And they had another opening last year when they opened up the small building that they built there. And I, again, was the only one there. And so, I wonder just how open we are. And as much as we talk about love and as much as we talk about God, how many leaders are really open and willing to say, yes, we are all in this together. Yes, we are all human beings. Yes, love is really the answer, but that radical love that Jesus had and displayed and lived and modeled for us.
Right.
So, it just makes me wonder, and I continue to go whenever I can go because I think that's important and I want to support them, and that we're all neighbors. And they're beautiful people, and I love going. And gosh, they treat us like royalty. We get fed all the time, and we just have great conversation. And yet, I was the only religious leader from our community who showed up.
Isn't that something? Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So how open are we? And I hope, Melinda, I was thinking about your story when you were at that rally. And you said you didn't even get to march or finish the march, but who knows what the ripple effect was of you talking to that gentleman.
Correct.
And how many minds that might have opened because he was now more open and you were more open. And I think that all has an effect on global consciousness.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
And it expands global consciousness. And so maybe now I'm thinking about myself here, my going to this open house, this grand opening of this new building and celebrating with them and learning some about who they are and what they believe, which again was not so different.
It's not so different at all. Yeah.
Not so different.
Yeah.
And there's also a ripple effect of me being in there. So
absolutely.
I don't need to lament that I was the only one. It's important that I was not.
No, you're not saying that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to come up and pick this back up. We need to go ahead and do a little break real quick.
Yep.
Let's come back and pick this up. Yeah.
I'm going to say goodbye because
okay,
I have my husband's doctor's appointment. So y'all carry on.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about love. I love you both. I
love you too, darling. Thank you so much.
And that will watch us.
We'll be back.
Talk to you soon, Melinda.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
All righty.
Bye, darling. Hi to Bob. All right. So, I wanted to come back to it because, just talking about loving others and that you being the only one at the opening of a mosque, was it?
Mm-hmm.
A mosque. And it brings up to me the idea that, I hear New Thought people all the time. We talk about how open we are and, how, if everyone just thought the way we did, the world would be a greater place, yada, yada. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone from New Thought say something like, well, I'm recovering, and stick in whatever religion they want to say something about, which all of us come from a different religion. I didn't leave the religion because I didn't like it. I love it. My sister is still a part of the religion that I grew up in. It just, as an adult, didn't serve what I was trying to do and where I was trying to go. That is all. But I loved. In fact, I'm going to a retreat that Essie and Greg are doing this coming Saturday. because I love being around them. They're human beings. They're funny. They love God. They love each other. They're just trying to do the best they can, and their religion supports them. So what is there to other them about?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think we just have to be open and curious and stop thinking that we, like you said, that we have all the answers and that it's all about us.
Yes.
And, as I took some notes as you were reading these 5 lessons, and I think we really need to come away from ourselves. He mentions the word sacrifice.
Yes.
But yes, there is sacrifice involved in loving others.
Yeah. So I don't know if you are frozen there
And backing up. Ah, there it is. I saw it. I clicked off for a minute. The picture disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
But really to start thinking about how can I really show up as love here?
Yes.
And opening that door.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have to crack the door open.
Yeah.
And spirit rushes in.
My gosh.
Can overflow just from us opening the door just a little bit and saying, you know what, I'm starting to think.
And the spirit's going, thank you. Thank you. Yes. I have so much to share with you.
And things start overflowing and coming our way. And then if we're open, then our minds can be open, our hearts can be open, and then we can show up as love. But we really do need to, like I often have to do, come off of my high horse and stop thinking I know everything. Stop thinking I am the ultimate judge and jury of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And soften a bit, give people grace. Realize that others are just trying, they want the same things in life that I do. Some of the same things, the basic things in life that I want, that my children are well, that I want to be loved and be loved,
yes.
That I want to be healthy, that I want to have a fulfilling life. I want good work.
Yes.
And most everybody is coming from that place. As human beings, that's where we're coming from.
Exactly.
And yet, we don't stop sometimes to think.
We don't. And we were talking earlier, you're on the board there at Big Sky, and was talking about Big Sky's retreat last year was
about belonging, community.
Belonging. And I think that part, Melinda was talking earlier about, belonging is comfortable. We know how to act. And if we belong to a group or whatever it may be, whether it's a church or whether it's a school or a family, whatever it is, you know how that works. And so you don't have to think about it. You know what to say, you know what they like, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And so it's not as frightening. And so, the whole thing with looking at others, it's like, I don't know how that group works. I don't know anything about them. What I've heard, which could be complete untruths, you could have heard it from someone who's not even a part of the group, who's making assumptions just like you are. But you're fearful. And the thing that he said, that Martin Luther King said, is that love is transformational. It transforms an enemy into a friend. And so for me, it's about, what does love look like and how does it show up? I think it has to be invited in.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be invited in. You have to decide on it, decide for it, looking at whoever or whatever the situation may be and saying, love is here and I'm going to wait for it to show up, for me to see it.
Mm-hmm.
For that, you know what I mean? That's a quick and immediate prayer that we can say right in the middle of something. Love, be here now. Just love, be here now, and wait on it. And so, I loved having how do we steps? My whole thing is, whenever I go to school or go to a workshop or whatever, I want to, what are the steps? What are the steps? How do I hear what you're saying? All makes sense. What's mine to do now?
How do I make it work?
How do I make it work? How
Yeah.
do I make it work?
Yeah.
And so I think it's critical that we talk about that. How do we make it work?
Yeah, love is the only answer. And I think we discount that sometimes. We think it's too woo-woo. We think it's not pragmatic. And yet it is.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
Yes. And people have learned to love in extraordinary circumstances. And that's why I seek out those kinds of stories. That's why I just read that book I was telling you about
Oh
earlier,
my
you and
gosh.
Melinda,
What's the name of that again?
Auschwitz Lullaby, about a woman, a real woman, based on a real story, Fran Hanneman, and her. So she's German, Aryan, blonde, blue-eyed, and she married a gypsy. And they had 5 children together. So because the Nazis came and wanted her husband and 5 children, and they were going to leave her alone because she was a blonde, blue-eyed German. And she said, no, you can't take my family and I'll stay here. That's not happening. I'm going where my children and my husband go. And so she went, and they ended up in Auschwitz for over a year before they were all killed.
And just
and so Nazi Germany was about, there's a narrative that certain groups are a threat to the country, to our nation, to the nation of Germany.
Yes.
And that's why we need to exterminate them so we can save the country. And so everything was couched as national pride.
Yeah.
And so if you love your country, you will do this.
Yes.
And people did it.
Yeah.
People bought the narrative and they were all in. Some because they believed in it, and some out of fear.
Right. And some out of greed. What was the real reason? What was the underlying reason? I want what you got. We're poor and you have money, and so I'm throwing you in because it's the best way for me to take what's yours.
Yes.
So that I can have it.
Groups were denigrated, and they said they don't meet the master race parameters, so they've got to go. Yeah. And they did. And millions, hundreds of millions were killed.
Right.
Tens of millions were killed. So I'm getting from the library another book about the aftermath of after the atom bomb was dropped.
Is that what it's called? Aftermath?
No, it's actually called something about ashes. I forget what it's called.
Okay.
And I've watched a couple of documentaries about it, and then I wanted to know, how do you rebuild from that? What happened after that bomb?
Yeah, me too.
What were some of the things that happened? Yeah. How did people live after that? How did we get to where we are now? And all of it's very fascinating. Very fascinating.
If we don't learn from our history, we're doomed to repeat it. That's a common knowledge. If we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And so really knowing, and this whole idea of just redefining, just recreating history, saying this didn't happen and this did happen. It's like, I'm sorry, there's letters that were written, there's archival things. We have to, you have to become more learned about who you are, what's real, read about it. Don't just take somebody's word for it. But even beyond that, if we just step out in love and understand what that looks like. And I think we get confused because we confuse unconditional love, which is what we're talking about, which to me is really, there isn't any other kind. Love is unconditional. I mean, if you have to put unconditional in front of it, you don't get the whole thing. Yeah. Love is unconditional. But when we have romantic relationships, it becomes transactional. And I will love you when you do this, if you support me in this, if you have X amount of, so we have all of these, what's your ideal man look like? Oh, he's got this, what's your ideal woman look like? So we begin to think that love looks like this, like it's and it does not. It's an open acceptance of who you are, however you show up. It says that you are okay with me. You don't have to meet any of my preconceived notions. My love for you is free. It's a freeing thing. I want what you want for you. I want what I want for me, but I want what you want for you. You don't have to meet my expectations in order for me to love you. I love you exactly as you are.
That's it. Love with a capital L. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so that gets harder to do when you think about love as transactional as well. When they get off the street, when they become like thinking of the unhoused, or when they take responsibility for their lives, you have no idea what someone is doing. They're doing the best that they can, or whatever it is. So you have no idea putting all of your judgments on someone before you love them. Mm-hmm. That's not love. That's not love. Love is exactly who you are and how you show up. I love you that way. Now, just because you love somebody doesn't mean you invite them to stay in your home. I'm not saying that. So I think that people get confused with that as well. It means if I love somebody, I'm going to have a relationship with them. No, that's not necessarily what that means. It just means that you accept them and appreciate them for exactly who they are. And if you can, you are willing to help. And if they need help, or if they're asking for help, or, whatever. But you just see them as loving individuals exactly as they are. That's the work. And it's not really work. That's the decision. It's actually not even work. It's decision.
Yeah. So now we're in our last 5 minutes. Do you mind reading those 5 love lessons again?
Yeah.
And we'll get some final thoughts.
Yeah. So the 5 love lessons from Martin Luther King Jr. The first one is darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And so he had a little more to say. I just read the titles, but what he said was love is the answer and the illuminator. The illuminator. During a time of tension, King chose to serve as a light and an example of how striving for peace in all things and all ways makes a huge difference in your outlook. Just by striving for peace. He talks about that in number 5, that it's not enough to not just not wage war. It is necessary to love peace and sacrifice for it.
Yeah.
Sacrifice for it. That's one of your things. And behind you is your whole peace initiative. That is when you look at the map of consciousness, for me, love is all, but love is just the beginning of spiritual consciousness.
Yes.
Peace. And then illumination, which pretty much is after you're gone. Peace is the highest form of spirituality. Peace is.
Yeah. And we need to step forward. And my peace initiative is about living it and doing that work. And how can we cultivate peace within our own hearts, within our own lives, and then radiating that outwards. But a lot of times it is sacrifice. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'd love for us to talk about that, for you to kind of leave that talk for us to talk about what does peace look like?
Yeah.
What the importance and power of peace. What does that look like? I think that can be a great topic for us to talk about.
And I think, we assume that it's something out here in the atmosphere and something we wax poetic about, but it's not something that we can actually do, that it's not something that I believe it's tangible and it's how we can live. And that's what I've endeavored to do. And it's no small thing, but it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. Yeah.
Because you when you started talking about peace, you said that it wasn't a lack of something. It wasn't because I think in your household you thought because we're quiet, we weren't arguing.
That quiet meant peace, and it doesn't. Yeah.
I love that. It's like,
not necessarily.
I'm quietly raging.
I'm sitting here calculating when to make the first punch because
I'm quietly doing that though. I'm planning and plotting.
Like boxers in their corners, right? Opposite corners.
Not at peace, buddy. Not at peace. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we got something in the chat. So Chris Herson, thank you, ladies. Good topic. So hard to love, quote unquote, others. Practice, practice, practice. Oh, there we go. Oh, Pjae, where can we find those 5 lessons from MLK? How about if we I guess we can email them. Chris, if you want to go to realtalksisters@gmail.com.
Yeah. And we'll just
send those to you.
Yeah, it's okay if you either use the initials or the whole PJAE. It's all good, Chris. Thank you so much. But yeah, if you go to realtalksisters.com and send us your email, I'll send it back to you. So you'll know where I got that from, his 5 love lessons. Thank you for asking. That's a great question.
I love this discussion. We got 2 minutes and we're out. So this has been great.
Yeah, it really has. This is the thing that we're trying to do when we talk about this. I think this is one of the reasons why we try to live this spiritual life, is so that we can love one another, so that we can have a greater life, so that we do our part. What's ours to do in this world, in this loving others, in this loving everyone? How does that happen? Because it's possible. Jesus told us that. Jesus showed us that. It's absolutely possible. And yet he didn't demand that anybody believe what he said. He just spoke his truth. Yeah. And I think that's what's ours to do, is to speak the truth as we know it.
I come that you might have life and have it abundantly.
Exactly.
And love's the answer to that.
That's it. All right. So we're going to say thank you so much. We got about 30 more seconds. So
thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chris, for being here. And we love you. Love you so much. Look forward to hearing from you. Real Sisters. Is it what? realtalksisters@gmail.com. That's us.
All
right.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Beautiful. I saw that it said check the chat, and I was thinking, were we chatting too much? I'm sorry.
It's your show. You can't chat too much.
Yeah, that's way too much sacrifice for us to be quiet.
Oh, no.
That's not happening.
That's why the show is so easy for us. We got a lot to chat about. Chat.
Anytime that you think of something that you want to read like that,
Yes.
send it to me.
I thought about it. I talked
Okay.
myself right out of it. I did. I thought I should send it to Zoe. No, it's too much.
You can put it on the screen for us.
Right.
Yeah. I thought about that. No, this is too long. He doesn't want all that. He's answering for you. Yeah. All right. I should have just sent it to you decision.
Is there also, I guess, could we post it on YouTube where the talk recording is? Can it go on a comment there or something?
I don't know. I'll have to see.
Can we drop